I feel bad about it, but I don't have anything left to eat.
I can't even get in touch with my siblings, and on top of that, I'm worried about money.
Intense fighting along the Mandalay-Lashio road is affecting many people who depend on goods supplies along the route. Doa Than has heard from residents of Namtu and Namhsan who are running out of food and are cut off from the outside world. Hello and welcome to Doa Than, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Fondation Hirondelle. This episode is produced by Shwe Phee Myay journalist Mai Ru Pa. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors.
We can only afford low-quality rice, and even that's running out at home. Same goes for the cooking oil. I'm thinking about selling my motorbike, but I can't find a buyer. I have to pay $35,000 for rent each month, since the place is owned by the mosque. I've already sold everything valuable I had. I feel bad about it, but I don't have anything left to eat.
Soe Win has always lived in Namtu township in northern Shan state. Things have never been this bad. The 50-year-old shares a rented home with his sister Dorthida, who's in her 70s. He used to work as a motorbike taxi driver, while his sister sold snacks outside the Chinese temple in Namtu town. But he had to stop working due to the steep increase in petrol prices. 1 litre used to cost around 4,000 kyat. Now it's nearly 10,000. Out of work, Soe Win began selling toys in front of a school. But the schools have been closed since June, when fighting resumed in the area, and few people can spend money on toys these days anyway. He's now selling iron scraps he saved at home to cover his living expenses.
Sometimes, our Muslim organisation gives us a bit of rice, maybe 5, 3 or 2 PE, and that's how we're living. The only thing I have left of value now is my motorbike. My sister tries to sell snacks, but there's hardly any profit.
In the third week of June, the second wave of Operation 1027 was launched by the Three Brotherhood Alliance. That's the Arakan Army, the Ta'ang National Liberation Army, or TNLA, and the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army. Over the course of recent months, they've captured several towns along the Mandalay-Lashio road, most notably Lashio, which hosted the military regime's northeastern command. Intense fighting is continuing, although the nearest to Namtu town is in Namtu, which is about 150 kilometres away. But transport links and the flow of goods have been severely disrupted, affecting the price of basic commodities like petrol, rice and cooking oil. Some roads are blocked by the fighting. China closed its borders with northern Shan state during the second phase of Operation 1027, and the military junta has blocks in Mandalay and Pinulwin, stopping basic food and medicines in Mandalay from being trucked to towns controlled by resistance forces. It's the same problem in the town of Namhsan. Gosai, a convenience store owner, has found it very difficult to bring in goods.
Before the fighting, I used to order from Mandalay, but once the fighting started, I had to take indirect routes, like going through the mountains. The stuff from Mandalay was returned 2 or 3 times before I finally got one delivery recently. Commodity prices have doubled now.
Commodity shortages and price hikes have become a huge problem around the country. A cooking oil shortage has prompted the military regime to introduce a rationing system. Petrol shortages have led to long queues on Yangon and Naypyidaw roads. But the difficulty and cost of transporting goods to remote places like Namtu and Namhsan, affected by conflict, means that Gosai and other vendors have to raise prices even further. And few local people can afford these prices. Both petrol and rice cost roughly 3 times what they do in Mandalay and Yangon. Namtu and Namhsan are now among the towns under TNLA control. Spokesperson Lue Yeu's only advice was for people to take part in local product exchanges.
One
way we might get through this is by prioritizing local products more. For instance, neighboring townships should trade with each other. Like, if Namhsan needs rice and another town has some, they should trade. If a city like Momay can produce rice, it could trade with Namhsan.
But what if nobody has rice? And how are people going to contact each other? Since the second phase of Operation 1027, most townships in this area have lost access to phone lines and internet connection. The only way they can get online is through a Starlink service, if they can pay up to 5,000 kyat an hour. 50-year-old Utun Naing said he hasn't been able to get news or contact family since the lines were cut off in Namtu town.
I can't even get in touch with my siblings. And on top of that, I'm worried about money. It doesn't matter if I get a phone. If I have to pay for the internet service, that's just not okay for me. Instead of spending 5,000 or 3,000 kyats on the internet, I could use that money for food, like breakfast or snacks.
Gomyo, an enterprising Namtu local, invested in Starlink equipment in August so that he and others could be reconnected. He says 100 to 200 people are using his Starlink service daily, and he defended the high price charged.
I'm struggling too because of the internet cut, so I wanted to help others by providing internet access through Starlink. I charge 5,000 kyat per hour and power it with solar panels and 3 batteries. I'm charging 5,000 because I also had to invest about 200 lakhs in this business. I also have 3 staff to pay. That's why I charge 5,000 per hour for this service.
"68-year-old Namtu resident U Ka Yin is willing to pay the price to stay in touch with his family. He has 6 children, all of whom work abroad.
Every parent must be concerned about the current political situation. I worry for my children more now as I'm getting older and they're all away. Even though I have to pay 5,000, I'm able to see and talk to my children, so it makes me happy."
U Ka Yin is one of the lucky ones. But until fighting stops in northern Shan state, many poorer people will remain isolated from the outside world and go increasingly hungry. Soe Win can't even eat rice without help from a local Muslim charity, and he can only dream of things improving soon.
Before the war, life was comfortable, honestly. No lies. Things were going well. But now we're struggling a lot. I've got rent due in September, 35,000, but I don't even have 5,000 on hand right now.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Doathan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media, and please follow or subscribe to our pages. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcast via the Doathan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify and Telegram. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.